Welcome to chapter 1. Look at my nose itching already. Spirit. Welcome to chapter 1. Chapter 1, I want to come out strong. And this is kind of like a dividing line between those who knew me when I was younger and for those who met me most recently. So if you stand on both of those lines, congratulations. Thank you for making it this far with me. And to those who've only known me in my youth, and thank you. Thank you as well. Okay, so the first thing I said I wanted to do, chapter 1, was going to be about kind of like the moment I decided I was not going to, want to go back and be reinstated as a Jehovah's Witness, and the reason why I felt like that was not for me. And just she's laughing while I'm trying to feed her. You're silly. But I just want to take it back to the day that I just want to take it back to the day where I sat at the table at the hall that I was currently assigned to, and I was pregnant at the time, and they had told me that they were going to they were of course deciding to disassociate me from the congregation. And I kind of already knew this was going to happen, so I wasn't really surprised or shocked. Even one of the elders sitting at the table with me even said that I was punishing myself before anything even happened to me, and he wanted to know why. And it was because, I was thoroughly raised to know the rules and regulations of the congregation by my mother. And if it wasn't for her push to educate and know the laws, which Sagittarius does rule, the ninth house does have to do with law and legislation, which means rules, regulations, right? Things that govern us as a society so that we can live our truth, right? Our expanding our reasoning for even being here. And her ability to reason with me and my siblings was one of the greatest tools that she's ever used in her parenting to help me have a greater perception of where I come from than just being kind of bitter about everything, which I know a lot of people are who come from that organization. So I'm pregnant. I had been, I was, I lost my V cord at, 19, almost 20 years old. So I definitely was like very well aware that that was a rule breaker, a deal breaker. And I wasn't, dumb to the fact that eventually this day would come. And I already kind of prepared myself by distancing myself from people who went to the hall, regardless of whatever they was doing or whatever they were partaking in. Because when I wasn't, being, lateral or vertically or horizontally, horizontally or vertically, but horizontally active, you're so silly, Momo. I had already knew that once I took that leap during my 8th house perfection year, of course, that I wasn't going to go back. I can't go backwards. So I made it my duty to try to be responsible and not include people in what I was doing. And I knew that if I was going to break rules or, do anything that I know within the bounds of that relationship I was not supposed to do, because I had gotten baptized in 2005. I was 15 years old when I had gotten baptized. And even that was kind of like a very difficult thing because I didn't want the praise. I really, really tried to like pray about it. I really tried to really ask myself over and over again, is this what I really want to do? Is this what I really want to do? Because before then, I had already started having dreams of things that was going to happen, or I already started having knowings of things happening. Like my psychic power was already activated, and that usually happens the strongest during puberty. Okay. When if whoever is from Taylor, Michigan, and you know about the fire that happened in our building when I was in 4th grade, I knew that was going to happen when I saw the building before it happened. And I don't know why. I couldn't explain why. I just had a strong knowing that something was going to happen. And it came to me clairaudiently to say, run in there, get your things, and run. Like, that's how I heard it. And then I told who I was with to that's what was coming to me, that was being said to me. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm getting this feeling to go in there and get all my stuff and run. And it was just telling me like, girl, you tripping, you know what I'm saying? But sure enough, a few hours later, our building was on fire. And before that happened, I had a dream a few nights before, and in the dream I was being shown that there were books of the Bible missing. So I went to ask my mother, and she said, no, there aren't. No, how it is just how it is. And I felt like she was wrong intuitively. I felt like, no, I don't think that's right. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know if she said that out of protection of me and not wanting me to venture out and find out information on my own, or if she just seriously did not ever think that it was more than what it is. But either way, I had an inner knowing that that wasn't correct. And then after that, the fire instincts have taken place. So I used to have dreams that, maybe it was due to the things that she would try to tell me to get me to wake up to be more realistic. But there was a lot of things that my mother had said to me that made me feel very small. And she may not have done it to make me feel small, but it did. Honestly, I was a young girl. I didn't know. As a mother, I understand. But yeah, it was like a lot of perceptions about how I loved myself, how I care about myself, how I carried myself, how I viewed myself, that I feel like made her a bit uncomfortable because I was so aware of myself and what I wanted for, just the small things as a young girl. And her dealing with, my father and even his mother that was very conscious of being perceived a certain type of way, where they're very, health conscious, very like fitness driven type of people. And that may have did a number on my mother psychologically, emotionally, where me naturally being that way really could have bothered her to a certain extent, and to make sure I'm not too big for my britches, so to speak. There was a lot of things that she said to me to keep me humble that really kind of made me feel insignificant, to say the least. So with that being said, getting baptized in 2005, it was like it was this or nothing, right? And then to have all these dreams showing me that, what she said about me and how my life would turn out was like very, after a while of hearing it over and over and over again, it started to come up in my dreams that was something I feared, which was, having multiple children, not having any support, not having a good man to support me and the children we make. Like, and even though that was her story and things that happened to her, she was trying to alert me to my decision making skills. But how the way it was done, it made me more insecure than confident in myself. And kind of thus living out these situations. But I was having dreams even back then before I even decided to leave, that those things were going to happen to me, and I was trying to figure out a way to circumvent those situations. So, Leo, I could be right and she could be wrong. Because that's not what I really wanted. Of course, no one wants to feel unloved and left with all the responsibility that created between two people. So when I was pregnant and I went to the hall in 2012, and they sat me down and let me know that I would no longer be associated with the organization, I already knew and I was prepared to deal with the backlash or the words, or I grew up very well aware of gossip and people talking about me all the time, saying things that were not true. And I got to a point where it was just like I just didn't care anymore. Like, I can't stop everyone from talking about me, whether it's good or bad. And instead of trying to fight every single person or every single thing, why don't I just let them be so I can have peace? And that also contributed to me feeling very cowardice, or that, maybe my voice really don't matter because I chose to not fight people about me or what my intentions are. So once that took place in that meeting, it did kind of make me feel deflated, because I wanted to, of course, I wanted to do the right thing, and I did want to what was considered to me at the time to be the right thing. I did want to be married. I thought I would be married or at least engaged by the age of 24 and married by at least 26, and I would have a nice life and all this stuff. But I had no clue what career path I wanted to do. I never got to explore anything creatively. I never got to dabble in anything artistic to figure out what I really wanted to do. But I've always loved science. Science was always my thing, and writing, journaling was always my thing too. And shout out to Kiera, because her stories that she would write in high school and even in middle school was so dope. It was like, if she can do this, I can do this too. Because I loved reading her stuff, and it was just like, why can't I do this? I wrote all the time. I always wrote down everything. You know what I'm saying? So now that I'm at the space where, I'm pregnant, I don't have any familial support. My mother is not even in the state anymore. And the first time I talked to my dad about me being pregnant, he telling me that I'm ruining my life. And I'm like, and then I'm dealing with this man who is so sweet, and then kind of feels like he's turning sour. And I just feel like I'm just losing my confidence in front of my eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't care what other people thought about me or said about me, but it did matter to me if my family was there, if my family would support me. And for years, when I was still at home, I didn't want to be around them because I felt like I didn't fit in anymore. Because when I started, when I slid my V card, I knew in that moment the only reason why I chose to even do that was because I just felt this overall sensation in my entire being to go for it. Like, all systems go, all systems go. Like, it was like that overwhelming feeling, and I didn't know how to navigate it at first. I felt like if I felt that way and I never felt this way before, maybe I should just listen to it. So I did. And I also knew at the same time that I was throwing everything out the window for a situation that may or may not turn out to my advantage, given that I've already kind of been storing this repetitive message about how my love life or my family life may turn out for the absolute worst, because I have inconsistencies and how I want to do things. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the moon and 6th house people. So it was like I knew I was giving up a lot to kind of be with someone or attempt to be with someone. And even the backstory of that is crazy. We'll get into it later. But after everything I had been through, dealing with that, relationship, I wanted to find something that was more me. And I met one of my greatest friends at the time. We were very inseparable. But I met Brittany, who most people know as astronomy. I said I don't know if I was going to say names or not, but I have to for, purposes, which she's well aware of. But I had met her and she was deeply into astrology when I met her. And she had books that I read. And then one day I got to her house. It was like in the beginning, early 2010. It was before I started smoking. And when I got there, she was like, "Hey, I found this thing. It's called a birth chart." And I'm like, "Ooh, let me see." And she put her stuff in and she was talking about how accurate it was. So I'm like, "Okay, well, let me see." And I did the same thing. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." You know what I'm saying? And of course, this is well before I'm pregnant or whatever. But I wasn't really attending, meetings or anything for the most part. I would go to, the bigger ceremonies and stuff. But I kind of already was like, I just don't know. Okay, I just don't know. And the head elder at the time he pulled me to the side and said, don't just be perfunctory. Okay, don't just go through the motions. Find out if this is you or if it's not you and make a decision, and it's yours. Don't do it for anyone else. And that conversation kind of felt, he's a Virgo too. That conversation kind of helped me to be a little bit more kinder and give myself a bit more grace with how I wanted to move forward in my life, because I really felt obligated to do things just because of my mother and not one. Yeah, so after he told me that, I kind of moved onward with my life. So we were looking over the birth chart and things of that nature. And I was working at the hospital at the time doing kind of like switchboard work. And I was at work and I went back to the same website, which we were using Cafe Astrology a lot back then, but it was also this like Eastern website too, where they had a lot of information. I can't remember the name of the website, but I used to use that website a lot too. Back in 2010, the internet was totally different than how it is now. I mean, they still have some misinformation, but I think doing a deep dive into information that was very rare now to find was very easy back then for some reason. But I read my chart and I'm like, okay, my first question was, how do you even, like, how does this work? So I started doing the research to figure out how it worked. I started looking at, what all the planets meant, what the signs meant, what the houses meant, the different angles meant. And I'm doing all this while we very busy at work. I'm taking notes while I'm taking calls and seeing who they need to talk to at the same time. And the person I was dating at the time, he was actually into astrology as well and very artistic. And he would read his horoscopes every day, too. And I'm like, okay, so let me look at his birth chart. And then I was looking at mine and his separately. And then I had wrote them down when I was at work. I wrote both our chart information down, and then I kind of crossed like, okay, this the same, this different, or this is here, this is there. So then I'll start looking at, okay, the compatibility between the two or the three or whatever it was. And then I would write that down as well. Whole time, synastry reading. Okay, doing the synastry reading. So I'm like, okay, I'm like really foxing with this. Like, this is way more than what I thought it was going to be. And I remember an older sister at the hall that I was at previously telling me that she saw, a Leo horoscope on my Facebook and told me that I should take it down because, it can really, stumble other people. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It really can stumble other people, obviously. So, I just I think I just hid her or deleted her or removed her, but I still kept my stuff. I still kept my stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of like when I started getting deeper into it at that point. Then I would download apps that would show me the current, planetary movement. I started downloading apps that would do the horoscope, but I really wanted to learn the science behind it. Like that was really my thing. Making a mess here. So, all right. Fast forward to, 2012. I'm not really known for knowing astrology that much, but by 2012, I was able to read a chart. I knew where the moon was, and right before my daughter was born, the Venus eclipsed the sun in Gemini. And then I had my daughter who's Sun, Venus, Jupiter, Gemini. Okay, Venus was retrograde at the time when I had her. So, yeah, I knew by the time I had her, I knew that my relationship with her father was not going to, it wasn't going very well. And I didn't think we were actually going to get married. I just felt like maybe he was just saying that so I wouldn't go anywhere. And he wanted to do the right thing. But, I wasn't expecting a 21-year-old man, 21-year-old man from 7 Mile on the east side to really be in a committed relationship for real. Like I really wasn't expecting that. I just wanted him to just do the right thing by me and his daughter as best as he could, because friends that turn into family are very influential in the decision making. As a man, you don't want to, mess up your ego or anything like that. He was very helpful, what I'm saying, when I first had her, but it was like after a while, it was like this, I don't think this is gonna work. I don't think this is gonna work because I was being labeled weird. I was being labeled a whole bunch of things that I was just like, okay, well, sayonara. And I had my baby shower and it was horrendous. None of my family really came. My best friends were biting each other at the table. My stepmother did an absolute grand job of putting my baby shower together, aesthetically, cooking, everything. She really did her thing for me, and I was so grateful because I was hanging on by a small thread to see that everyone claimed they would be there and nobody was. So that's again reaffirming, those early statements that made me feel insignificant, right? So let's fast track to the point where I decide I'm not gonna go back. I lived with my mother in Vegas after I left here when my daughter was 6 months. And it was a lot of clashing because, just different, and as my mother would say, one queen per castle, right? And we're very fire, double, like fire sun, fire rising. So we're very strong personality wise. However, I just wanted to be in my own space where I could have some type of freedom. And I still didn't know what career or life path I was really meant to be on. I was just taking jobs just to have some money, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I feel like that was really messing me up as far as figuring out what direction I wanted to go in. So by the time I had to come back home to go through court with my daughter's father for, child support and custody, my friend's mother, who I was staying with, but never affirmed that I was going to stay. Because I thought it would just be like a day or two and then I'm out, but it ended up dragging because he wanted to drag court out, you know what I'm saying? So, and I was like, I felt so stuck because I didn't have nowhere to go. I didn't have nowhere to be. I didn't have nothing other than me and my daughter and some of the stuff that we had. So I was like, I was really impeding on her space. And I felt very guilty about that because it was like, this is not the life that I want to have. Like, I really need to figure this out like now. Like, I felt the pressure was on. Saturn was on Sag at the time, and the Sagittarius told me, you know, when it came to the organization, they've been preaching the same thing for years about this same thing over and over and over again. And because they're on the loop, they're on the loop. They're on the loop. So it's like, if they're stuck on the loop, do you want to be on the loop or you want to get off the loop? Because they're just going to keep going round and round and round. And you can do the same thing if you want to, or you can figure out what you want to do. And I'm like, she was right. And I felt like this little lift of energy in my crown. And I'm like, huh. And by that time, I was already digging into tarot and numerology. It was 2015. I was digging into tarot and numerology and understanding that a little bit more. Figuring out what my cosmic my card was. And, you know, shout out to Dave, because he was very instrumental with sending me the Hermetics, telling me about the Kabbalion, and me getting that book and reading that stuff. Like, all of that stuff was so instrumental in me understanding, like, I literally can create whatever I want. And that was literally the key to me being like, okay, you know, I don't have to be so doom and gloom about my future, but, you know, I still need to figure something out because I can't live like this with my baby. Okay. So by 2017, you know, I moved back to Vegas, which was the whole point of going to court, is so I could leave. And then, so then I pretty much decided when I went to Vegas that I was going to stay and live there and, you know, figure things out from there. And then I was working a new job at Asherion in Las Vegas. They had just put that building there, and they had 2 floors in the building. And it was a really good job. It was paying me the most amount of money I've ever been paid before doing the type of work I was doing within a call center. And just like most jobs I had that was like that in the beginning, it was kind of like, okay, cool. But after a while, it was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is, and I was starting to understand the only reason why I took this job is because someone told me it would be good for me, but it really was what they thought would be good for me and not really something I really wanted to do. So I started being hyper aware of those types of situations and being proactive and making decisions that can alter those situations from reoccurring. So I came home from work. Me and my friend at the time, we were planning my birthday trip. When we went to Myrtle Beach. But the day of my birthday, I went to work and they decorated my desk. And I didn't really know they would do that because I had just started a couple months before. And they just put like, it was just like 1 or 2 little balloons and they just said happy birthday. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I don't care. But before I went to Vegas, I told my mother that I didn't want to go back because I didn't want to be stuck in that loop. And it's a requirement in her household to go. So I knew it was going to be friction in that high vibrational energy that I was feeling before I left Michigan and left my friend and her mother's home, who I also deemed to be my other mother. Before I left their home, I was so like energized and confident and very sure that no matter what was going to happen, everything was going to be fine. It'd be a piece of cake. Like, I really had it all in the bag for the most part. And whatever I didn't know or I couldn't figure out, it was okay. And then I got there and it was like I had a setback in my energy because my mother told me that she don't have to show me love just because I'm her daughter. And although she's correct, realistically, you know, speaking, she can do whatever she wants. It's her energy. She has a right. It made me feel that same insignificance again. And that really affected me. And I wanted to always leave the home, just like I did when I was in my teenage years. I just wanted to get out and go somewhere else, be somewhere else. And one day I chose to go out and explore. And I ended up meeting the man that would become my son's father. And that was a very difficult relationship, to say the least. But what I learned in that relationship is he kept pressuring me to figure it out. And it was my Saturn return as well. And he used to always say, "You ain't got no hustle in you. I thought you from Detroit. You ain't got no hustle in you." And I'm like, "I do. Shoot, I'm coming up with money, and I ain't working like I want to, but I'm still coming up with money. I'm still coming up with ways to pay rent. I'm still coming up with ways to make sure we eat. I'm still coming up with ways, but I was afraid to do the thing that I know that I'm the most good at." And he like, "Well, what's that?" And I said, "Astrology." And he like, "You don't do hair, you don't do nails, you don't babysit, you don't sell drugs. Like, how are you gonna make money from doing that?" And I'm like, "Well, that's the best that I'm good at. I know that I'm good at." And it reminded me of that part in That it reminded me of that part in Dream Girls, where they were trying to help find Effie a job, and she was like, "I don't know how to do nothing but sing." Like, and that's how I felt. I don't know how to do nothing but read them up. Okay. That's exactly how I felt. So I already knew I wasn't gonna go back. And I had so many questions about, why I had to do certain things and who said that this was the right way to do it, and who's governing this whole situation where if I don't do it, like I'm damned to death, as if we are all not damned to transform anyway. Like, it was a lot of conflicting information. And it was like, because I understood when she said it was a loop, I instantly knew exactly what she was talking about, because I was getting to a point where I would go to a meeting and I'm breaking out into like having panic attacks or damn near anxiety, attacks, because it's like it's just the same thing over and over and over again. There's nothing profound coming in these messages anymore. There's nothing profound that's helping me realize more about who I am. There's nothing about what you're telling me that's making me feel more confident or sure of myself in which way I should go in my life. And every time that I would have an idea or something I wanted to do, it was always either a no, or maybe you should reconsider, or how would that look to someone else? And it's like, well, I don't care how something looks. This is my life. This is my life. And why is my life tied to how someone else viewed me in an organization governed by people who don't know me? Like, why is that controlling everything that I do? And that's a hard spell to break. Very hard spell to break. So shout out to anyone who been a part of any organization called whatever it was that had that groupthink mentality, and you chose yourself over, what other people expect and want from you. You chose to protect your energy. You chose to learn who you are, know thyself, and not let someone else tell you who you are. So that's what I chose to do. So I'm not. Somebody was calling me, and I'm not about to let that happen again. So in conclusion, um, some things just never sat right with me as far as the truth. I always felt like there was information missing. But the biggest reason why I chose to leave and not go back is because, like I told my mother when she asked me about why astrology helped me understand myself better. Being at the Kingdom Hall did not help me understand myself better. It just helped me understand why my mother was the way she is. It helped me understand why people do the things that they do. It helps me understand um, organized religion. It did, with her help, it helped me understand how to do better with reading context, cross-referencing, research, developing an idea, giving small presentations, uh, forcing myself to kind of jump out of my shell and speak to strangers, which I couldn't really do that again until I forced myself to take a job at Walmart so I can get back used to doing that. Doing, holistic fairs, psychic fairs. It was fun, but at first I was really, really nervous because I have to talk to people I don't know, and it was always a fear of the unknown. But I eventually got over it. Um, it helped me to, you know, be well versed with the Bible, because I was able to read the Bible. I understood like the overall objective of what they were trying to teach me the Bible was about. And I understood, you know, how to use scripture in connection in conversation with someone. I knew all the books of the Bible. I would win Bible games and stuff like that all the time. So I like those memories that I had of connecting with people that were different from me, different ethnicity, different background, different, you know, economic status, whatever. I embraced those parts of it. But when it came to always feeling like I don't fit in, always feeling isolated, always feeling misunderstood, always feeling restricted from being able to be myself, those are the parts of the situation that I did not like, and reminded me why I felt better elsewhere, just trying to work it out and find my way. And as much as your parents try to keep you from leaving and going out to the world to figure it out when you could just stay in the organization and figure it out, it was like I felt like it was just impossible to do, because no one was open-minded enough to do that within. It's like everyone was scared of not me being right about some things, but they were just scared that they were wrong. They didn't want to go there. They couldn't answer everything. So I chose to do it on my own and find myself. And with the push of, you know, Saturn's return, you know, I decided like, this is what I want to do. And I started making plans. I started writing down. I wanted an astrology blog, and I did that. I wanted to, you know, have a website and sell, you know, readings and have readings with people and make money that way. I've been doing that. You know, in 2018, after I had my son, I kept writing down over and over. We cramped up in this small, you know, condo studio apartment, and I'm writing over and over like, I want these types of classes. This is what I want to teach. This is what I want to expand on. This is what I want to learn so I can teach other people and figure out how all this thing connects and works for other people as well as myself. So we're not limited in doing things like being stuck in situations or groupthink that's really not serving us very well, except for maybe our ego. So I chose to leave and not come back because I wanted to be an astrologer, and I wanted to learn spirituality from different that's my indication to me. So yeah, I figured out that's not what I wanted, and I figured out this is what I wanted to do, was astrology, and see where it takes me and help people. And I've been able to do that. And although I'm very well aware of how ahead of my time I am with some of the other things that I plan to do in the process of doing, rather, I know that I didn't make the wrong decision even after the drought of support and family that I have experienced. I know that I did what was best for me, even if that truth may have been bitter for some or all. But that's my chapter 1. There will be some things in the coming chapters that will maybe expand more into my decision making, because drinking the taking lion's mane just specifically, but getting more into mushrooms really helped me to remember a lot of things. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it here, chapter 1, and see you in chapter 2.